So let's begin. We're going to be talking about storytelling with data. First of all, we have an agenda that has some information about myself. So I'm going to be talking about what is the purpose of data analysis and data visualizations. We're going to go through an exercise, and with that exercise, we're going to go through some of the main topics that I want to talk about that are chart selection, decluttering, color and contrast. And after that, I'm going to give you some data storytelling examples that are not the same as the example I'm going to give you, and some cool resources, and we can end up with the Q&A that Nelson is going to be in charge of at the end. So first of all, about me, as I said, I'm Steven. I'm a data analyst and also an analytics engineer here at Factor. And I have experience working with financial and servicing data for this last year. I have a background as a petroleum and chemical engineer that is maybe not too much related to data analysis, but I love being a data analyst. And I'm an enthusiast for data and music. So given that information, let's talk about what is the purpose of data analysis and data visualization. Data analysis and data visualization are like tools to take the information overload that we get in the day-to-day and make organized data, make organized data sets, or organize the data in a more clear way to be able to build data visualizations that are going to lead to informed decision making. In this presentation, we're going to be mostly focusing on data visualization and how these can be used to lead to specific decisions whenever you want a decision to be made or a recommendation to be taken into account. So I'm going to start with an exercise. You start as a data analyst in a food chain company, X company, and you feel excited about working on some data that you are going to love. On your first day, your boss walks in, or if you're working from home, your boss sets up a virtual meeting, and he tells you that he would like to see the percentage of purchased items. He will, with that information, he would like to know the most purchased items and the least purchased items. And he already got a chart from a previous data analyst or a previous worker, and he would like you to take a look at that chart and maybe do some improvements. And just a heads up, I'm a real fan of The Office, so it's going to be a little bit throughout the presentation. He gives you this chart, and the first thing you do is having a stroke because this chart has everything that you don't like about data visualization. It has too many categories. This pie chart has too many categories. The colors are confusing as hell. The labels are overwhelming. There are too many labels to actually understand what is going on. It's not easy to figure out which are the bottom categories because they are not like put next to each other. The top categories are a little bit easier to discern, but this is not a visualization that makes decisions easy. And also it has 3D, and 3D doesn't help at all, doesn't do anything here. And after having that stroke and telling your boss that you don't like that chart, he gives you the permission to go through the source data and change it all to make a visualization that suits your style more. So what is my style? And first of all, we need to decide what kind of visualization we want to make with this data. So we know we have percentages and categories. And we're going to give like a little rundown of what it's like to select a chart. First of all, when you have a pie chart, or when to use a pie chart better, is when you have few categories, max 4 in my opinion. And it's better when you have situations in which differences are clearly outlined between categories. And personally, I don't like pie charts too much. I don't use them too often because I think there are better types of visualization to give information about data. I love bar charts. They can hold many more categories. They are easier to show differences between these categories and can be used for historical data. Personally, I love using horizontal bar charts. I think for some reason, I think they are like a little bit easier to read when information is oriented in that position. Other options, depending on the case, could be line charts. Line charts are ideal when you have historical data. They are easy to understand because you are just moving a variable through time and can have multiple categories if you decide to have many lines on the same chart. Another option can be an area chart. It's like almost similar to a line chart, but has the variation that it has like the percentages of the total for each one. So the area behind the line represents the percentage of the total. And if you have many lines or more than one line, each area represents the percentage of total. The issue with this one is that it can suffer from the same issue as the pie chart, that it can have too many categories and it can become confusing to see all those little tiny areas through the chart. We can have also scatter plots, which show the relationship between two variables. They are mostly used, or personally, I think they're mostly used in literature when you're doing research or on the research phases of data analysis. And you can have bubble charts that are a variation of the scatter plot, and you use the size of the bubble to give information about an extra variable that rather than the only two that were on the scatter plot. So given the information I just gave you, as a data analyst, I would have decided that the winner was the horizontal bar chart, and this would be the guy that picked the pie chart over here. So given that we have selected the horizontal bar chart, we change it up. We just make the decision to change up the chart with our system. It could be Tableau, it could be Google Sheets, any kind of data visualization tool. And we see that although it has some improvement, it can be improved even further. So you decide to apply all your knowledge to see how you can make this better. And to start with this, I want to talk about the cluttering this chart. And what do I mean about the cluttering? The cluttering is the art, I would call it, of removing unnecessary elements from a chart or unnecessary element for anything in life. And it makes it easier to see and more appealing to the eye. So if we start with the cluttering section of this chart, I'm going to do like a step-by-step of what would I be doing. First of all, as I said, 3D doesn't really bring anything to the table. So 99% of the time, I don't think 3D does anything. So we can remove the 3D. Already looks a little better. The background is gray, but all the other background is white, and it's really not doing anything. It's actually like a little like ugly for my taste. So when you remove the background, you see that the chart takes like another view, another personality. After that, you can see that the axes and the ticks are really not being useful in this case, and you can remove them to declutter the chart and make it see more appealing to the eye. So after moving the axis, you see that it's a lot easier to watch the chart. And you can note that here at the bottom, we have decimal points that are 0.0. So since our decimal points are actually not doing anything to help bring information, we can remove them and just leave our integers as percentages. Then we have removed 3D, we have removed the background, we have changed the decimals, we have removed the axis, and you can see that the chart is taking like another form. It's being easier to see. I see that the titles are a little bit repetitive. We have the favorite food, percentage of people, and at the top we have percentage of people versus favorite food. So you could use a better, a little more intelligent way of doing the title and just bring it all together in one simple title, percentage of food category preference. And you can just see this is the food category and this is the percentage. So you understand immediately just by looking at the top title what is going on, and you don't need like the horizontal title or the vertical title. After that, personally, that is something that I do on my charts in my day-to-day work. You can see that you're not really sure if this is 20, this is 19, this is 21, or this is 35, 36. So what you can do is just bring the labels inside or next to the bars. And this way you have the exact information on what is going on. And you can see that the chart went like a whole 180 from what we had at the start to what we have right now. I'm sorry. Having said this, we see that we still have a lot of colors. And personally, color is a really important tool that I use in my day-to-day. And in here is not doing actually anything. So I would like to talk a little about what color is, how can it be used, and why is it important. So color is a really important tool that should always be used with a purpose. You shouldn't be putting color in a chart just for the sake of using color. Colors can mean different things. For example, we see that red normally means passion, energy, but it can also mean danger or that something is negative. Green normally signifies that something is growing, that something is natural, that something is good, that something is evolving. And other colors like blue are a little more neutral. And personally, I love using blue in charts where I don't need to have differences between colors or have differences between categories. So yeah, I wanted to highlight those three colors, but you can see that each color has like a different ways of being interpreted, and that can change through the type of industry you're working on. That can change for your specific company. It can change based on your branding colors. For example, at Factor, we have these colors down here, and we are the colors that we normally use for our charts and our visualizations inside of Factor. And it can depend also on the culture you have. In different cultures, a color can mean something different. And another important, really important thing about a color is the use of contrast with color. If I tell you guys to, as I said, I like music at the beginning. If I tell you guys to find the acoustic guitars, it's going to take you a few seconds to go through each of them and see that you have 5 acoustic guitars. But if I give contrast to the acoustic guitars, your eyes are immediately going to go to the places that are totally different from the rest of the other parts. So the use of contrast in color is really, really important and can bring recommendations to a whole new level. If you want like a stakeholder or someone that you're showing a chart to be really mindful about something, to change something, to look at something specifically, you can use color and contrast to bring up those specific scenarios. Having said this, I wanted to see what would it be like to use different colors in the chart. As I said, if I don't need to have differences between things inside the chart, I like using a neutral color that is blue in this case. And but what happens since we have been asked to answer different questions from our boss? Let's remember that he wanted to see the most purchased items. Let's say that we decide that we want to see the top 3% of purchased items. And we use contrast to highlight those specific ones. So you can see that putting all the other ones in gray and highlighting these brings the eye exactly to where you want your client or your stakeholder to see. The other thing that our boss wanted to see was the least purchased items in the process. So you can do the opposite and just change the order of the chart and bring attention to the 3 least purchased categories of food. With this, you have answered your bosses or your stakeholders' questions, and also given different versions, different opportunities, different candidates for a chart that your boss could use, or you could put this all together in a single dashboard and be different worksheets or different pages of the same dashboard, and they can take a look anytime they want. Summarizing what we did for the chart. We used chart selection to go from a pie chart that was not really being used correctly to a bar chart. We used the cluttering to remove the 3D, to clean the axes, to clean the titles, to remove the labels. And we used color to make sure we understand and compel a more easy to see visualization. And we used contrast to bring attention to the things we wanted them to see. And we went from having a pie chart that wasn't really doing anything and was hard to see to having these 3 options that you can see on the right that are really different from the thing we started on, and in my opinion are a lot better to have decision making or get an idea of what is going on with the data. You can see that on the pie chart, it was really hard to see which were the bottom categories, or they were not ordered or next to each other. And in here, when the red one passes, you can see that the 3 of them are really next to each other and easy to see what is going on. So after just you finish your process, let's say that this takes you a day or 2, I don't know, your boss is going to have a really cool reaction to your presentation, and you are going to be able to give more insights and more information to all the things that you need to do at your job. And this is a really good way to start your work life in your new company in the food chain. Having talked about the way of improving a data visualization, I would like to talk about some other things the data visualization can do. First of all, I wanted to show an example from National Geographic that they did on COVID in 2020. So what they did is appeal to feelings, appeal to metaphors, appeal to things that make you understand more internally what they want you to understand. If I give you death by COVID data in the US in a table, you're just seeing, okay, 2020 US 500,000. But what the National Geographic did was to appeal to metaphors, saying that a year has 525,600 minutes. And that means that there was almost one COVID death per minute for the entire year. So instead of just giving you, 500,000, they're telling you, we have almost one COVID death, one a COVID death per minute in the year. And that feels a lot more overwhelming. You feel like, well, I mean, every minute a person was dying from COVID in the US, and that's only in the US. So appealing to feelings with charts can be really useful. Of course, it can be used in every case. You can go to a fintech company and try to appeal to feelings with a bar chart about payment balance. But you could use these in situations where you are creating public presentations or things that have to do with human social things. Other thing that can be done is just not something as sad as COVID, is be creative and fun with data. So you can see that here, a visualization was created to show data from a tennis game from Rafael Nadal versus Casper Ruud. It was the Roland Garros men's singles final in 2022. And you can see how each set is depicted as a bunch of little squares. And every time a break happened, for those of you who know tennis or have played tennis, a break is when you win a game and the other person was serving. It shows like a specific knowledge or data about that situation. And you can see how the game is evolving until the point that Nadal wins the first three sets. These two visualizations show that you can appeal to being fun, appeal to being creative. Data visualization has no limits, actually. You can be as creative as you want, but you need to be also mindful of who you are presenting to, who is the stakeholder that wants to see your visualization. And you just be mindful of who are you presenting to, and then be creative taking that into account. To finish up the presentation, I wanted to share with you guys some cool resources. First of all, ChatGPT. I know most of us that know a little bit about artificial intelligence or have been on internet in the last month have seen that ChatGPT is a big thing. And you can ask him about anything. And if you ask how to create a compelling visualization, or I have this type of data, what do you think it should be done with it? It's really cool, and it gives really amazing answers. For example, in this one, he gave me like a full 7-point list of how to use data comparison, how to choose by data type, by data volume, how to do relationships. So having a conversation with ChatGPT about it can be weird, but can be awesome too. And another cool resource is Tome. This is a generative AI to build presentations. You can give a prompt to Tom. Let's say, I want a presentation regarding weather, and he will create, and the AI will create like a template of like 8 to 10 slides that give like a really good sense of what you asked on the prompt. So you can check it out, and it's really cool. And finally, I wanted to share my Bible. This is the Storytelling with Data by Cole Nussbaum. Is the best book to learn about data visualization and storytelling, in my opinion. A lot of the things that I have learned and I have showed you in this presentation have to do with the things I've learned looking at this book, looking at her presentations, looking at what and applying it to my daily use of charts. And as Michael says here, I think that pretty much sums it up. Thank you guys for assisting to my talk. I was going to say tech talk, to my talk. And you can ask your questions. You can let's start with the Q&A if you want, Nelson.
Thank you, Steven. So, and I liked especially liked the last part about ChatGPT, because I have used ChatGPT to plot some data sometimes, like showing the data and then asking to create the code, and it is a pretty good job that it does. It commits some errors, but you can fix it if you know about it. So, and now let's go with the questions. First, we will read the questions in WOBA. There's a question from Marcos, and is what challenges face data scientists when telling stories using data?
What challenges face data scientists when telling stories?
Yeah, using the data.
First of all, one of the most important things you should do is understand the data, not just get to a data set and start building charts for the sake of building charts. You need, if you don't know the data, the process is doing an exploratory data analysis phase and then doing the explanation phase. So the challenge at the beginning is going through the data. You can use the tool of your that you have available or that you like the most. You can use Python pandas. If you have a SQL database, use SQL, but understand the data, understand what is your categories, what are your numerical variables, what are your outliers. And after understanding that, understand what you are being asked of. If you have a stakeholder, most likely he's gonna want something specific. He's just gonna tell you, hey, this is data, do whatever you want with it. He's going to be asking, I need to know what are the most, the biggest performance agents. Let's see, for example, I've worked with servicing, and in servicing, um, we need to see performance of agents to see which are the agents that perform the better answering calls. So you need to know how the data behaves, where to pull it from, and then create the appropriate visualizations to show the difference between the agents. It can be associated bar charts, tables, line charts to see information through time. But yeah, I would say, just to sum it up, understand the data and understand what your stakeholders want from the data.
Yeah, I think that's pretty important. And another question is from Nelson Cardenas, myself, but it's a doubt that I have. Like, what style would you use for plots, like in Matplotlib, to easily import a Matplotlib style to create plots like the one you showed us?
To be honest, I don't use Matplotlib too often because my main tool is Tableau in a day-to-day basis. I use it in my work on a day-to-day basis. But I would say, and I was checking out a Q&A question from Zoom that said, simple is better or does it depend? I would say, if you are bringing a specific style for Matplotlib, use the simpler, the better. Don't have too many colors, have standardized colors. Don't have like one chart that has blue and red, another chart that has yellow and green, and have all charts with different colors, because that is confusing to the eye. So try to keep a constant rate of colors and try to make colors signify almost the same thing throughout the chart. Let's say if you are looking at percentages or performance, let's say the green is always going to signify good things through the chart. And that gives like the brain a thing to learn just by looking at the first chart and infer for the next ones. So although I'm not sure, Nelson, sorry about the specific style from Matplotlib, I would say that look at the ones you have, look at examples online, and try to be as simple as possible. You are muted, Nelson.
Okay. Another question, we will answer also the questions in Zoom, but first we are looking at the questions in Wova.
Yep.
And this one is, what tools do you recommend for building visuals?
Well, personally, to create these examples, I didn't have access to any like paid tool. So let me just go back to create this kind of visualization, the one you see on the right, and also the one you see on the left, although it hurt my eyes just to create it. I've used Google Sheets. I just created some dummy data, and with the dummy data, I used the create visualization option and just added the parameters to make this one as early as possible and make this one as pretty as possible. But you can start with any tool that you like. You have tools like Tableau, and you have like a public version of Tableau. You can use Power BI. It's something that is really used for Microsoft users in the industry. I would say that those two are a good point to start. But you have also other open source tools like Plotly Dash that one of our co-workers here, Laura, presented a couple of days ago. That is an amazing tool that you can use for free just by having Python. And Python is free to use too. So if you don't want like a specific tool and you want to do it for free, most of us want to do it for free. You can start with those kind of things: Matplotlib, Plotly Dash, Seaborn. and you can go through online things to try to get free trials for Tableau, Power BI, Looker, things like that. So I would say that those are the tools that I recommend. Nothing specific, just pick one and try to apply good and standards in any tool that you're using.
Okay, thank you. And maybe we can continue with one question from Zoom, and it's from Jose, and is simple it's better or depends?
Yeah, I combined that with your other question. Yeah, we can go to the next one.
Which are the visualizations tools, the visualization tool set that you use the most as a data analyst?
For visualization, as I said, in a day-to-day basis, I use Tableau. Tableau is my bread and butter. I love I love it. Maybe I love it because it was my first love, and I learned how to use it from the beginning. And if I know if I go to another one, I want to feel kind of weird, kind of betraying Tableau. But yeah, I use Tableau on a day-to-day basis. I also, when I was in college, I used a lot of Matplotlib, Seaborn. I used a little bit of Plotly Dash, and I think it's awesome, but I haven't used it too much. But I would say for visualization, I mostly use Tableau.
Okay. And the next one from Harold Uribe. Why are pie charts not often used, and why not yes?
Well, this is more of a personal opinion, so don't take me for granted of that. But I love using I love not using pie charts better because I think or you have to infer too much when looking at a pie chart. Like you sometimes categories are too similar from each other, and you are not sure if one is bigger than the other. And sometimes you have too many categories to fit into the same pie chart. And so, as I said, it's a personal preference. You can use the pie charts if you find them useful and you make them simple to use. I will keep that as a recommendation. Just always have them as simple as possible. But yeah, that's the reason I don't like to use them, because they make you infer too much, and they can hold many categories. But I have seen them a lot in the industry or in infograms and stuff. When you have two categories, maybe a division between genders or something like that, it's okay to use a pie chart because it's easy to understand in those situations. About the donut chart, to be honest, I know what a donut chart is. I don't see it too much in my day-to-day work, so I'm not sure if it's used most often than a pie chart, but I would apply the same principles. Maybe people use it because it's like a little easier to the eye, and like donut concept is funnier. But yeah, I think pie charts can be used, but need to be used responsibly.
Okay, and this question from Alexander is, what libraries do you recommend or prefer to make visualizations in Python? Some secrets?
Some secrets. I don't have like a secret thing that nobody knows about, and I'm going to tell you here whispering or anything. But as I said, I think Matplotlib is like the main first one we use as data analyst when we're learning Python. Actually, Pandas has their own little visualization thingy. You can put that plot and have simple visualization. You can start there, but I would say Matplotlib, Seaborn, Plotly, Dash. Those are the ones that I would recommend to at least take a look.
Yeah, I like Plotly because it's easier to explore the graphics that it creates.
It's really interactive. Yeah,
you can put your mouse over something and it will give you the data point. So it's really useful if you want to explore the data. And I like this question from Jorge in Wova, and is there any useful chart for expressing unstructured data?
Unstructured data. By unstructured data, do we mean like
maybe text or images?
Well, I would say cloud. If we have text, we have words, we could use word clouds. we could to see like the most used words somehow, or we could group the count of words and have a bar chart if you want to simplify it. Use and see the top end words that have been used, and you can have a bar chart. Sorry, I'm a sucker for bar charts. And but yeah, for images, honestly, yeah, I wouldn't know how to tell you about images. I would just do maybe a collage or something that show certain order that I want to show in my images. Maybe create a GIF that shows order too, as I created here, because when I was doing this slide, I didn't know how to put all my three charts in one. And I said, that's just create a GIF. It's easier. And yeah, that's my answer to that. I can go a little bit further and try to research a little bit more and get back to you on that one. Jorge, was it? So yeah.
Okay. And this one from Luis Daniel. What should we do when our stakeholders are the ones asking for clearer visualizations or certain plots that we know are inconvenient? What would be a good way to convince them?
Thank you, Annie, for the question. I know we suffered. To answer that question, I would say that you should have the one that the client wants and have the one that you think it's better, and use maybe on the dashboard, have two versions of it, or a side by side something, and show them, hey, look at this. You have better filters for the one I use. You have parameters for these. It's easier to understand. And those are your arguments. You cannot make people do whatever you want every time. It's your job to give recommendation. It's not your job to change their mind if they are set in stone. But I think just creating the best version of the chart you want, and have a side by side, or have like a meeting with a test version. Hey, but let's say I want to test these. Maybe we can do some A/B testing, change it for a while, and see how stakeholders feel. And after that, we can just keep this one or go back to the one we had before after some feedback. So yeah, I would say build the thing they want, and build the thing you think they should have, and that way you are gonna at least show your best version, and probably get a win most of the times, because they are gonna see that, oh yeah, this is better. Thanks, Danny.
Okay. And this question from Juan Anaya. In what way do you use Python to make a data analyst, or maybe to work as a data analyst?
Yep. What is Juan Anaya? Python. Well, I think Python. I mostly have used Python to do data analysis as researching data. As I told you before, creating visualizations, you have to actually understand what is going on. So for me, I learned to use pandas ever since I started in this world of data visualization. And for me, going through a data set with pandas is like a really easy way to understand what do I have here. Check out outliers, check out types of data, check out null values, check out column if some columns are useful, some columns are not. Also asking questions through stakeholders or people that came before you in your line of work to understand the data, because there's always a data guru that tells you, hey, this table does everything or knows all the different joins between tables, and you don't have to go into a crazy mode to find what the hell you need. So I would say the use of Python is mostly in my personal use to research data. But as I said, Python can also be used to create amazing visualizations, create complete dashboards with tools like Plotly Dash. So it's at the limit of your imagination, I would say.
Thanks. And this question from Carolina: how do you use data visualization to perform the pre-processing of your data set?
How do I use data visualizations to perform the pre-processing of my data sets?
Yes.
Okay. In this case, I would go to some of the charts that I told you that are mostly in the research phase. For example, scatter plots, bubble charts, box and whiskers, things like that, or like normalized distribution charts. Everything that gives you like an statistical analysis of the data. I think those type of charts are the ones that you should be looking at in those situations. But yeah, I think understanding the data through those types of visualizations gives you the information to actually then create the visualizations to show the stakeholders the things you want. Because let's say if you want to show, I don't know, something, a category that is going too great, that is going great in your business, but you find out that, and you didn't do any a previous visualization. And after you publish it and show it, a person tells you, hey, that was a mistake. Those were outliers. That data isn't true. You're showing something that is not really what it is. And so having like a previous pre-processing of the data is really important in the charts I mentioned, box and whiskers, normalized distribution, and yeah, those types of charts I think are the best for that scenario.
Okay, let's continue with questions from Zoom. This one is from Julio Lopez. Which are the typical problems when creating visualization data, creating new charts, maintaining updated data, source error data?
All of the above. But yeah, when creating new charts, let's start with creating new charts. When you want to create new charts, it's really important to maintain an order of what is already existing. Let's say that you are not creating a new dashboard, but a new chart inside a dashboard. You need to maintain the order that you have. You need to see that your chart actually makes sense with the rest of the visualizations that you already have on the dashboard, and maintaining also color coding, all those kinds of things. So yeah, I think that's one of the things. Source data, maintaining data, that is something that I face every day in a day-to-day basis. So just you need to be aware. For example, in Tableau, you need to be aware of your refreshes. You need to be aware most of the times if you have too many dashboards, you're not gonna realize at the exact minutes when something happens, but you can set up like alerts in your email to know when a data source didn't actually run, or probably an angry stakeholder would say, hey, there's no data for today, what happened? So in those types of situations, you need to go and see what happens to the data. Sometimes it's that a column changed names in the source data. Sometimes it's that a new column was added and changed the thing for a column you already had. Sometimes it's that bad data somehow entered, and that's when we really recommend that we have testing for our data. That's a completely different topic, but it's really important. And yeah, the challenges are when creating new charts and maintaining the order you already have and understanding what your stakeholder wants from the new chart. And when maintaining updated data and source error data, just be on the lookout to know how to fix that error data. That is not so much as visualization, rather than just knowing your data and knowing how to fix it. And that comes with experience, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we can continue with the next one. Do you have recommendation to start a personal portfolio project?
Well, my recommendation is just look out for something you love, man. I mean, go to, let's say you love soccer, go to Kaggle. I think a lot of us know Kaggle. If you don't, can you type it on the chat, Nelson? I always type it wrong. But Kaggle, the one with where the machine learning challenges and everything. And Kaggle.com, you have a lot of data sets, and you can just look out in the internet in general for data sets that you like. As I said, let's say that you love soccer, football, and you can search up, I don't know, a data set for the 2022 World Cup and create visualizations. The teams with the more that score the most, the team with more possession, the team with more dribbles, the best player, the worst player, the best goalkeeper. So just be creative with the data you can find, and don't do the Titanic thing we all see on YouTube, or just try to find things that are fun for you, because when it's interesting for you, you make it with love. And when you make it with love, it's a lot cooler to your portfolio gets better. It's not just something that you did and forgot and just put in there. So I would say look out for things that interest you to create visualization with data.
Yeah, I agree with that also. I will add that if it depends also with your kind of job, maybe. Yeah. If you have the opportunity to use real data, maybe that's also a good strategy, because you have a result that you can relate with experience. And next question from Julio Lopez. Is it worth paying for the typical online courses of data visualization?
I mean, that is so relative because there are so many different courses. But honestly, if you don't know anything at all, I would start with YouTube. Just YouTube has like 80% of the things you need most of the time. There's always a person that has a tutorial for anything you want in life. And so I would start with YouTube, try to find like a playlist of, I don't know, you want to learn Tableau, a playlist of the unupdated playlist for Tableau. Or, and after you go through YouTube, you think, hey, I learned a bit, but this is not enough for me. You can search up tools like Udemy, Coursera, things like that, and you will probably find something more specific. And well, when you pay, you become a little more compromised to actually finish the course. So if that is something that makes you actually work, you can pay for it, of course. But I wouldn't start with a paid course. I would start with self-compromising YouTube.
Thanks. And this one from Laura Trujillo. Do you have any cool tool or software that can help you to select better the color palettes one might use for database?
To be honest, Lau, I don't have an actual tool for that. And I mostly use like the base color palettes that my tool has, but I think all of the data visualization libraries have documentation. So I will go to the internal documentation of the library you're using or the tool you're using and learn which are the most used ones, search up examples online or something like that. And yeah, I will go to the documentation of the tool you're using. It's not the greatest answer, but it's the one I have right now.
Thank you. And we have a lot of questions here. And there are some questions that people wrote in the webinar chat. So let's read some of them. We still have 10 minutes.
Okay.
Which tools do you use besides Tableau?
For data visualization on my work day-to-day basis, I only use Tableau. And well, recently if you guys know what Snowflake is, it's like a data warehouse, but Snowflake has now like a Snowpark, I think it's called. And in Snowpark, you can actually just bring a table that is already on the data warehouse and create a dashboard, like a template of a dashboard inside of Snowflake. So that's really cool for companies because sometimes companies have to pay Snowflake and they, on the other side, they also have to pay Tableau and have to pay Power BI or something like that. And that is actually pretty expensive for a big company. So having things like Snowpark it's really useful. Personally, I like from time to time just going through Python and do things with Matplotlib, Seaborn, just try to get creative with it. But as I said, mostly I have been using Tableau in my work life.
Okay. And the next question, Andres was waiting a lot for that answer because he wrote the question in the webinar chat and the Q&A section.
Yeah.
So what about graphs? Creating visualizations based on graph data that are easy to read is challenging, especially when nodes are highly connected.
My God. To be honest, Andres, I had never done a visualization that was linked to a graph itself. I know what they are, but I'm gonna be in depth with you for that answer. But we will definitely get back to you on it because that seems like something that I actually would like to research and understand. So I don't want to tell you any lies. So I don't want to tell you anything right now. But yeah, I'm gonna research that and try to get back to you with a proper answer for how to create charts for graphs.
Yeah, in my case, I just have used like a library, a package many years ago, and it was a dummy example. So I don't know about them, those kinds of plots so much.
Sorry, Andres.
And let's see if we have another question. Cloud words are good for unstructured data. And Roymar is asking, please tell us the tools that a good data analyst must know.
A tools that a good data analyst must know. First of all, I would say that a good data analyst must know how to use SQL. You need to understand how to use SQL because it's like the programming tool we use for bringing data from all the sources we have, and the thing we use to create more data when we have when we need to create more columns, we need to change the data. So knowing SQL is really important. I would put it as number one. Then having data visualization knowledge, as we discussed in this talk, I would put it as the next thing to know. You don't have to know something specific, but just learn the basics and learn a tool. And when you know a tool well enough, you can jump from one tool to another without too many issues. And yeah, I would say those two things, and know the basics of programming. And to be honest, one of the most important things that are not mentioned enough, I think there are people skills, because as a data analyst, you interact with the client the most in the data world. I think, a little bit more than the data engineers or the machine learning. I think you have a little more contact in the day-to-day basis with your stakeholders and their needs. So having people skills, being relatable, being able to maintain a conversation, a lighthearted conversation, don't be tense with your stakeholders. That brings confidence in your work and in you. So I think that's another thing that is important. I would put those three right now, but there's probably a lot of things you should also learn. You should be up to date with tools like DBT to learn data transformations, or the data ETL tools, or Python. Python is also really good to know, because a lot of times you are going to be doing data wrangling in Python. So, but mostly SQL, data visualizations, people skills, and yeah.
And I try to do a summary about what you said. SQL, programming, it can be Python.
Yep.
A visualization tool, people skills. I'm adding storytelling that I think it's really important.
Yeah, it's
and an ETL tool.
Yeah, an ETL tool.
Yes. So I think that those are all the questions, and I'm really happy to share with you this time in the Learning Fest. And Steven, you can say goodbye to the people.
Guys, thank you a lot for coming. I saw a lot of people here. We were almost like 100 at one point, so that was awesome. And yeah, I just hope that you learn a little. If you want to learn more, you can reach out to me. And yeah, thanks a lot for coming. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned a little and laughed a little with the gifts. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks.